Okay, thank you very much, Lee, for the nice introduction. It's a pleasure to be here with you all. And I think there's quite a lot of 24 people, goodness me. And some of you from far-flung places, as far as England's concerned, at any rate. So let me just have a look, see who's here to see who friends are. So there's Gen Hagiwara, that's a pleasure. And who else have we got? Jens Bol, Kazuo Sumiya, I imagine probably from Japan. Lorenzo Riccione, what a pleasure. Mark Balaitho, we know him very well. Miyuki Kawamura from Japan. Who else have we got? Oh, there's probably enough to be going with. Anyway, welcome, and it's a delight to be amongst you all. And I want to just reveal a few secrets. I do a lot of talking in my classes, and I also encourage you to talk as well. So I think we all tend to take our origami folding sessions a little bit too seriously, and I don't want this to be a particularly serious session. So please unmute yourself at any stage and challenge me or heckle me or tell a joke or sing a song or anything you'd like to do. So let's have a bit of fun. But I'd like to start really by introducing you to this gentleman. And this gentleman looks a bit like Charles Darwin. So I originally called this session Unnatural Selection. And the logic was that you, in certain respects, you have the choice uh, to affect the appearance of your model in the fullness of time. So, in a way, you're the sort of Charles Darwin or the unnatural selection. And it occurred to me that my grandfather looks a bit like Charles Darwin. So, um, here he is. This is my great great grandfather, and his name is John Lamb. And he's known in the family as John Lamb Primus because his son was also John Lamb, and his son was called John Lamb Secundus, and he actually, like me, was a painter, and he painted this rather magnificent scene from the Shakespeare play A Midsummer Night's Dream. And you are probably thinking, what on earth has this got to do with origami? Well, not a great deal really, apart from this name here, Lamb, because what I'm going to show you today is what I call the lamb butterfly. And I've got this is a bit more story. Now last time I have actually taught this before at a recent Birmingham mini meeting, and it was a commission, especially for the Birmingham mini meeting a couple of weekends ago. And the commission really was from John Farrell, one of the organisers of the Birmingham meeting. And the reason was that Michael Lafosse was going to be one of the teachers at the mini meeting, and he had the idea that it would. Michael Lafosse is very well known for his range of butterflies, and his butterflies can be modified in lots of different ways. And he thought it might be nice if somebody could create a butterfly dedicated to Michael Lafosse and to Richard Alexander, his partner, who was also teaching at the meeting. So he asked me, and I fiddled about with it, and I came up with this butterfly, which I'm going to teach you now. It's pretty simple, so maybe it's possible to fold it a few times and for you to try some of the variations that are possible, and there are really many. So, and it stands for Lamb, which happens to be my great great grandfather's name, stands for the Lafosse Alexander Meadow Brown. Now, the Meadow Brown is a very anonymous little butterfly. Oh, by the way, while I'm doing all this chit chat, and there's a lot of it, so I'm making no apology for doing a lot of chit chat. While I'm chit chatting, you can make sure that you've got enough paper for the session, and you'll need to begin with at least one sheet of 15 centimeter or 6 centimeter square like this, which is white and brown if you want, but you can choose any other color, maybe like red for a red admiral or anything else, or even white and blue. You need to have a contrast. We need to see both colors. So it's better if it's paper which is harmoniously colored, where there's a good contrast. If you did, for example, white and blue or white and black, you could make a reasonable cabbage white butterfly. And also for the variations, I'm going to show you the basic butterfly, which is to show you the fundamental shape. But then for the variations, it's better to go a bit smaller. So what you can do you can actually cut one of these 15cm squares into 4. You cut it into 4, and or alternative, you've got one of these useful little packs, which has, some of these have duo paper in, which works reasonably well. But I actually personally prefer white. I'm actually not very fond of this patterned paper, but whatever. So that is what you need. So if you've not got it ready, while I'm chit-chatting and telling you the story about the model, you can make sure you've got the paper that you need. So the next, I have experimented with sharing my screen on Zoom, but I've had lots of failures. So I'm resorting to this old-fashioned way of using printed sheets, which I hope are clear enough. So this is what this little butterfly looks like in real life. So I'm very happy that we live in the country here. We're surrounded by meadows and fields. And my wife and I, I'm sure you know, she's here. Come and say hello. Come and say hello. Come and say hello to everybody. She's here.
Hello, everyone.
So we often go for walks in the morning through the fields, and very often as we're walking through the fields, we see these little butterflies which fly up as we walk through the grass, and it's always a pleasure that they do, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's a fairly anonymous little butterfly, but it's got some pleasure. But there's one thing I noticed about this butterfly, is that it's rather different from many of the origami butterflies that it's different from the butterflies that we see in origami. And let me just show you the next thing here. This is Michael Lofoss's book, which is devoted to his butterfly system. And if you look at these butterflies here, all of the wings are angled forward here. So if you look back at the meadow brown, the wings are sort of curving backwards. And it seemed to me that this was something that was rather missing in origami. With most of the butterflies, the wings go forward like this rather than back like this. And I looked at another famous butterfly, which is Akira Yoshizawa's. This is his classic butterfly that many people know. This page is copied from one of his most recent books, which is available through Tuttle. If you look for it, it's a wonderful book. Pretty cheap. I haven't got the original here, but never mind, it doesn't matter. But I'd just like you to give you I have quite a long, I've known Michael Lafosse for quite a long time, and I'd like to show you some of these rather ancient pictures, which shows, this is Michael Lafosse in the center, and this is Richard Alexander, his partner, and these two, this is Eric Joisel, the great Eric Joisel, who sadly died a few years ago, and this gentleman is Jonathan Baxter, and somebody's asked, is it a moth? Not really. It is a butterfly, but the meadow brown is a butterfly. But I think you're right in saying that the moths do have this curving shape. So I should just tell you the history of this story. So all of us here were very fortunate to be invited to go to Tokyo for a grand exhibition in Tokyo for Akira Yoshizawa's 88th birthday, and this is more than 20 years ago. It was actually in 1999. And here we all are, very smartly dressed in suits because it was a formal occasion. Not often that we wear ties these days. And here's another one from the same occasion. It's a very smiley picture, which I'm very happy to have. So that's all the blurb. So we now hopefully by this time you've got your paper ready. So I've got my brown square. I'm not hearing too much chit chat or heckling from you, so please unmute yourself at any stage and talk to me, sing a song or tell a joke or anything you like. So let's have a bit of fun. So let us turn the paper over so we can see.
You said that we don't wear ties very much these days, and I was just thinking to myself,
say again, sorry.
Zoom meetings, we don't even very often wear trousers. So,
well, I've got trousers on. I'm happy to say. I'm happy to say. I hope nobody else is going to expose any parts of their body they shouldn't be doing during this. Anyway, let's do a bit of folding after all this chit chat. So I'm going to start with the paper white side up, and I'm going to fold in half. The side nearest to me, I'm going to fold right the way up to the top, covering up all the white paper, and I'm going to crease the center like that. Hope everybody can see me and hear me. If you can't, please shout out. That looks very good. Mrs. Brill is folding along with me, and she's heckling me from the other side of the table.
Yeah, I need to keep you
Of course
company.
you do.
So not only virtual people.
If they're not going to heckle me, you can.
Real people should be here. Yeah.
Okay, so having done that, let's just open up again and turn the paper around this way so that the crease that we made is vertical. Okay, now I'd like to fold the top right-hand corner into the top. I'm just going to make a pinch. So I'm folding this corner to the center. I'm just going to make a small pinch, maybe about 1 centimeter, something like that. And the same thing on this side here too. Pleased to say that sometimes pinch marks, when we make them, aren't terribly visible on Zoom. Okay, now I'm going to turn it round so that the pinch marks are nearest to me here, okay? And then I'm going to fold in half once again so that the lower edge here goes all the way to the top. And once again, we're covering up all the white paper. There's a strange habit I have when I'm folding. For some reason, this index finger of my right hand sticks up, and I've absolutely no idea why. Why should that be? Anybody got
I'm going to be super conscious about my index finger now. I have to watch what happens.
It's like when you drink your tea. It's like when you drink your tea and you put out your little finger like that. What's it for? Does it to give you balance or something? I've never
It's connected with horses.
Horses?
Yeah.
Tell me how.
I don't remember all details, but it's something on the...
Horses don't have little fingers, Asya.
No, it is about jokers and all this stuff, but I can't be certain. Sorry.
Well, you have to just research it and let us know
Oh,
your results.
yes, I will.
Okay, so we've got that little shape here. So the next thing that we're going to do is lift the paper off the table and fold in half as a mountain fold along this central crease here. Not a new crease, we're just reinforcing that crease through the center point here. So you can see the pinch mark that we put in on the right hand side here. Okay, everybody's happy so far? I'm sure no problems, it's pretty straightforward stuff. So the next thing, here is the closed corner. Here are 4 raw corners here, and here we've got 2 corners, and here 1 single corner. So the paper is orientated correctly. So that's the closed corner, which is the center of the original square. So now I'd like to fold this bottom left-hand corner up to touch the pinch mark that you put in the second step. Trying not to allow all the layers to separate as we do so. And we're going to make that corner touch the pinch mark. And the crease needs to go out to the upper left corner, which is the center of the original square. And roll it over to begin with and adjust so that the crease that you're making is as tight and as clean as possible. And try to avoid what I've not managed to do, this light white paper. So if you can, hold these corners together to keep everything neat and tidy.
Yeah, if it is lying on the table, it's easier.
Maybe easier. Then press down flat. We've actually made a 30-60 degree crease here. You probably realize that this is 30 degrees, this is 60 degrees here. So we've divided that 90 degree corner into 30-60. So the next bit is simple too. We turn over and we repeat the process in mirror image. So this time we're taking the bottom right hand corner up to lie along the pinch mark. And once again, we're going to make a sharp point. Anybody feel like singing or heckling or telling any jokes or anything? Just to sort of keep the mood nice and light? No, no, you're too shy. It's too early on Sunday morning for all this frivolity. Okay, so shall we move on? I don't think we need to do a poll, really, Lee, do you?
I don't think so. I'm sure it's people can, if anyone's really stuck, come off mute and shout.
No, I hope they're already off mute so that they can heckle me. Okay, so the next thing to do is to open up. Oh, here's a joke. Here's a joke. Somebody spoke. What does this say? Let's have a look. See. What's the most common owl in Britain? Oh, the teat. Don't get that one. The teat.
Teat is not
a teat. A teat.
No, David. Okay, say the word teat and then say the word owl.
Tea towel. Oh, a tea towel. Ah, a tea towel. Got it. Hold on. That's a bit slow.
He's a bit slow up on the uptake.
It's too early on Sunday morning for me, you see. Far too early. I've only just woken up, truthfully. Okay, so we've now got the thing which looks like that. So here are the two 60-30 degrees creases that we put in before. And the next thing that we need to do is to just separate the two layers at the bottom, which are down here. I mean, if you just trap the center of the lower layer with your index finger, and then with your other hand, lift up, put maybe 2 or 3 fingers along that bottom edge to keep the paper flat on the table. And then at the same time, with your other hand, lift up the central mountain fold, allowing the paper to swing towards the 2 layers on either side, to swing towards each other so that you form this central flap here. You can see now we've got the beginnings of our, let me find a picture of our meadow brown butterfly.
This is the last one.
Was it the last one? No, it isn't. Completely lost. No, it's here, I think. No, that's.
You want to
I doesn't matter. Anyway, you've got. I've lost my. There it is. So you can now see we've got the beginnings of the shape of the meadow brown that I wanted to try and reproduce. Okay, so let's swing that flap to the left and to the right, just to reinforce the creases on either side. And then just press down using your own inbuilt bone folder. It's not exactly bone. I'm a bit against tools in origami. I don't know what other people think. A lot of people come to conventions with a very nice box full of bits and pieces, like things like this, and things like this, and things like this, and things like this, that they can all use with their folding. Now, I'm a great believer in not needing any of those things at all, because what we need for origami, the only thing we need are these things here. No. So this is my bone fold, or a bit of that up there as well. That's what we need. Okay, right, so the next thing we do is to squash this central flap, which is standing up. By the way, I always think that's very pleasing, the way that lines up so neatly with the layers behind. One of the reasons we do origami. So we need to squash this central flap, putting your finger as far as you can in, so that the squash that you make is neat and tidy and squashes symmetrically. We need to make sure that these layers in the center here are touching one another in the very center. And then you squash down flat, making sure that the central crease lines up with the layers behind. How are we doing for time? 20 minutes. We'll almost be finished. Okay, so once again, you can see that we're getting fairly close to the meadow brown shape. Okay. So let's just go once again, use our inbuilt bone folder. now then, the next thing we do, in fact, this is interesting. This shape, which is almost already a butterfly, we can use either side of the butterfly. You can decide which side you prefer, and this is the beginning of our variations, all the changes. But I'm going to go, and I recommend for you to do the same with this first one. Let's start on this side here, where it's mainly brown, but you've got these two little white triangles in the center, because this is the back of the butterfly. This is, if you imagine the butterfly actually resting on a leaf like this. So the next thing we need to do is to sort out the body of the butterfly, and to do that, what we need to do is to make this central crease here into a mountain fold. So lift off the table. It's probably a valley at the moment. We need to change it into a mountain, like that. So we fold it in half, trapping all these other layers within. And you can press flat and put it on the table like that. This is the head of the butterfly, which is pointing to the right over here. And you've got this little bit of white here, which is like one of the decorations, bit of the decorations or the pattern on the upper wing. Now you'll find that this, at the back here, you've got a little, the rear wing, the smaller wing at the back, does actually split. There's a little split. And the next crease that we're going to make actually starts out from this point here. So we need to lift one layer, and with it, the layer behind. See, I don't know, I'm sticking up that finger now. Why am I doing? Why am I doing that? It's absolutely crazy. So I'm going to lift up both wings together. Don't let them separate. And I'm going to lift them as far as I think is right, which is probably. You could make it a right angle here, this angle, but I'm going to go make it a little bit more than a right angle, so that this wing is angled back very slightly, because again I want to emphasize that curving backness, if that's a word, of the meadow brown. Okay, everybody happy? Anybody want any extra time or repeatings? I want a drink. This is water. I would like to emphasize the sun is not yet over the yard arm. That is water. Okay, so everybody's happy so far. I'm going to turn over so that we see the other side of the paper. Here you can see, you need to be a bit careful, incidentally, that you don't fold too much. It could have a tendency for the paper just to tear here if you're a bit over enthusiastic at this side. But I'm now going to fold the other wing, the other two wings up together simultaneously, so that one lies exactly over the other. Once again, make sure that you're not overdoing it and causing the paper to split at this corner here. And then we're going to, now you can see that we could leave it like that. It looks a bit like a butterfly at rest. So you could imagine it lying on a branch or a leaf or something like that. You could leave it at that, but we're going to go on a bit further. So once again, let's just iron everything down with our inbuilt bone folder. And I'm going to look now at the head. We're going to lock the head so that it fits, that it holds a bit more firmly together. Now, if you look at the head section, here's the head of the butterfly. And you can see that here is the two sides of the body. And if you separate here, I'm just going to zoom in using my magic gadget here so that you can see what's happening. So here you can see that here and here there are layers in between the two head section, the two sides of the head section. Now it's very easy now to fold this edge, this very short edge, down using that edge as a reference point. We're going to fold it down like that to make a sharp point at the head. And the same thing on this side. So you're making a pointed head. Now, if you want to go a little bit further to make it even more secure, you can actually tuck that flap inside the pocket, which is just here. This is a fairly recent development. This is model, however simple it is, it's still fine. I'm still finding sort of little improvements, and I think that's true of any new creation. You make it the initial version of the design that you come up with. It's alive. It's never the end. It's never completely the end. You always find little improvements. It's a little bit fiddly to get it in, but it can be done.
But then it is not locked.
It doesn't. Yes, it will. If you lock it in.
I put it.
No, you put it in behind the pocket.
Yeah.
Into the pocket.
Ah, okay. But there is no pocket.
Oh,
it is
yes.
edge here.
That's the edge. That's the pocket I'm talking about.
I see.
See, I'm getting a lot of heckling here,
No.
in-house, not from the
No,
international
I
community.
don't have a pocket here.
I can't believe you've not got a pocket.
No, the pocket.
What's that pocket there? Look, there is the pocket.
But it's not a pocket. It's just folding behind itself.
Well, no, she's just being very
No,
argumentative.
I
my
really
wife.
can't see the pocket.
There
I'm
is,
sorry.
There is the pocket. Look there.
We need to run a poll on whether we've got a pocket or just
Yeah, I
just
think-
I
lay it
folded it, and
there.
this is not
Should we ask
pocket
the
behind
audience?
itself.
All right. Okay.
There is no pocket.
Okay, she's being very argumentative, my wife, this morning. Has anybody else having problems about whether there is or not a pocket, or is everybody reasonably clear?
Yeah, everybody don't say any word against you.
Yeah, so there is a little. You can, if you want to follow Asia's idea, then you can just put it behind itself. It isn't a pocket. Right, we're not going to fall out over a pocket, are we? Especially not in public. Okay, so I hope you've managed to do that. So I haven't quite finished my second one. I'm really trying to string out this into a 1 hour session, this incredibly simple model. Okay, so now we've finished forming the body. Now what I'd like to do now is open up separate the two sides of the wings. Now you'll find if you look at the front, you can see a little hole right in the center of the head. And in fact, what we need to try and do now is to just gently squash the body so that it's sort of oval shaped, making sure that each of those layers on either side is following its partner to the left or to the right. So if you just gently squash so that it's sort of circular, we're not flattening it completely. If we look at it from the front, it needs to be oval shaped. And that is really the basic form of the butterfly. So that is version 1. Now what I'd like you to do now is to take another square and cut it into 4 so that we can have a go at making 1 or 2 variations. Incidentally, here are some I made earlier. So you can see a number of the variations that we can try. Most of them involve simply turning the tips of the wings over to create various different wing patterns. But there's 1 or 2 other ideas that I can show you later on.
Can I interrupt? I just bought this.
Just a moment. Let me have a look at your.
Let's.
Who's speaking, by the way?
Marianne.
Nice
Marianne from Holland.
Oh, that's very nice. Who's this this book by?
It's not a book. It's a package with.
Oh, I see. Well, that's
and,
convenient, isn't it? Is it patterned paper?
Yes. Yes.
Uh-huh. Anyway, do you like it?
Yes.
You do.
But not for butterflies.
One of the problems is that printed paper is very rarely symmetrical along any axis. So you come to make a butterfly with it and the wings come out different.
Yes.
So I don't know if specialist butterfly paper, Marianne, has got like the correct print so that you can fold a butterfly with it, or if you just get a lopsided creature.
Yeah, it's wait, there's a curve in the wings. I made one for my sister-in-law, and she liked it very much. So, but I found this more for, well, other things, not for butterflies.
I'm not so happy with pattern paper very much, because with pattern paper, it's really difficult to see any existing crease lines that you put into the paper.
Also, yeah.
So I prefer plain paper, so it's much easier to see. If you've got reference points that you previously marked, you can see them much more easily. So I'm just going to fold my second 15 centimeter square in half in both directions, and then cut hateful word and hateful thing. I don't know, I have a love-hate relationship with these things. I think the manufacturer has now gone out of business and people are frantically trying to find alternatives. The other great alternative is this thing, which everybody probably has, unless you're eating it with chopsticks. This is a good old-fashioned, non-serrated table knife. And this is an extremely good substitute for the famous, much-loved or hated envelope opener. So I'm going to use this to just slice the paper in half. It's not quite such a clean cut, but my goodness me, it'll do. So in fact, if you make a meadow brown, a lamb butterfly with this 7.5 centimeter square, it's more or less life size. So the actual butterfly that we see in the meadows every morning on our morning walk is about this sort of size, maybe even a bit smaller. So let's have a go. Well, just quickly, if you remember the steps, please go on ahead and do it. But I'm just going to do another. I'm actually going to just show you one possibility, is to fold the other way. So this could be a cabbage white butterfly rather than a meadow brown. So I'm going to fold in half. I've zoomed in a bit so that my paper, you can see that my paper looks a bit smaller, but in fact it is smaller, but it seems maybe the same sort of size as the original 15 centimeter square. So I'm going to fold into quarters, then I'm going to do this so that I can see the pinch marks. Not very well focused, that is it. I can recommend, I've got one of these wonderful gadgets, which is an Epivo document camera. So if you do any online teaching, it's not exactly cheap, but it's such a great gadget. I've even experimented taking movies using the Epivo. If you have a look for an Epivo document camera, it was a really extremely good investment that we made about a year ago, more than a year ago, at the beginning of lockdown. I'm not explaining look, I'm doing that again. What is that there? Why do I do that? Why don't I do that? It's crazy. It's only the right hand. So answers on a postcard, please. Why am I doing that? It makes me nervous now when I see it. So then I'm going to split these wings in half. And now I've got a white butterfly. And I'm going to squash. That's it. Good, yeah. So I'm just going to squash down again. So that now I've got a mainly white butterfly with coloured tips to its wings. Now there's another kind of butterfly in England which is called an orange tip. And you might, this could be a representation of an orange tip butterfly. Okay, so once again, this time I'm going to arrange the wings the other way round from the original one. If you remember, we This is now the equivalent of that. Obviously, I've changed the colour round, but the principle is exactly the same. Before we start to form the body, we can play with the tips of the wing by just folding up a tiny bit. Now, I like to fold this up. You can fold all the way to the raw edge, or you can fold just a tiny bit. And I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to imagine a line, just so that I get this folding up symmetrical. I'm going to imagine a line which goes from the head to the corner of this wing here. And I'm going to fold this back so the tip of this paper lies along that imaginary line, so that the little triangle I've made here is isosceles. So we've got a 90 45 degree triangle, a 90 45 degree isosceles triangle there. And I'm going to do that with all four corners so that they are more or less the same. And you can vary the amount that you fold in. You can be free and easy with your measurements. And if you look at butterflies, and I suppose I've looked at butterflies more than I have in a good number of years, the patternation on either side is different. So this is quite a good representation of this. So now I'm going to do exactly what I did before to form the body, and I'm going to mount and fold in half. This time, of course, I'm doing it the other way around. Before, with the first version, we were working from this side to make the body from this side. This time, I'm going to do it from this side to make it look like an orange tip butterfly. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing again. This time, I think I'm going to go a bit nearer to the right angle here. So this time I'm going to make a right angle at this corner here. Then I'm going to turn over and mirror the folds that I made on the first side on the second. And once again, I'm going to tuck in these little corners. This time I'm not going to bother putting them inside the pocket. Well, actually, there isn't a pocket to go in because we've done it the other way around. But in any case, just tuck the two short edges in between the layers of the body. Flatly. And as you can see, it looks like a butterfly which is resting. They just come alight on a leaf. And when they settle, if you're taking a photograph of a butterfly, and Asya takes hundreds, you want them to open their wings, but they never do. They know that the camera is there watching them, and they refuse to open their wings. Now then, the next thing we need to do is just separate the wings and then just gently squeeze the body. If you insist on using a tool, I'm actually going to break all my own personal rules. I'm just going to put this knitting needle, which has been borrowed from Asya as a folding tool, just to squash the body open so that it's oval in cross section. And there we have another. So let's do another variation quickly. Here's my third square, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go back with the colour on the outside. So I'm starting with the white. I'm folding in half this way. Anybody got any questions they want to ask? Please unmute yourself. Chat to me. I feel very lonely here. Nobody's talking to me. What's the matter with you all? You must have woken up by now.
I think the photography is hard, and I got quite interested in photographing insects a couple of years ago, and butterflies generally put their wings back, and I learned that is what distinguishes a butterfly. But the real problem with photographing them, because they still look quite beautiful with their wings up, the real problem is even the slightest breeze moves all the plants around, and you just cannot get things to be still. So you need just the right day to get a good photograph, and then and then be patient. Yeah.
I think also they some of them like to open their wings to sort of sun themselves or to cool themselves down. Who knows? Anyway, listen, we're moving around here. Now, this is another variation you can try. So instead of folding the paper in half this time, just leave a bit. So it doesn't have to be folded exactly in half. So I'm going to leave a white bit, or you could even experiment folding it over the other edge so that it isn't necessary to fold the thing exactly in half. So this time I'm just going to experiment by just leaving this a little white edge as I fold down, and then we can continue as before. So I'm folding in half, and if you take this corner once again to line up, we're still getting a 60-degree crease, even though it's not a full square that we're folding. So this in the previous incarnation, this was an exact square. Of course, it's slightly less or more than a square, depending on how much you've left behind. So this is another way you can make a variation. You don't have to fold it exactly in half. But then we proceed as before. We lift up that central bit. We swing these sides, and we've still got our nice 60-30 degree division. Once again, I'm going to squash, but we've changed the proportion of the wings because we didn't fold it exactly in half. Now this time, if we look back at the picture of the meadow brown, he's got sort of zigzags at the bottom here. This picture I actually stole from Wikipedia. I don't think I stole it actually because it was a Creative Commons license, so I don't feel too guilty about it. So this time I'm going to just make a further experiment by making a little double zigzag on this smaller wing. I'm going to once again fold this up and then back again. A bit fiddly because it's tiny. So that suggests that sort of zigzag pattern on the rear wing. Challenge now is here to make this one the same, and it won't be, but maybe it's not in nature either, so who cares? So I've got that zigzag pattern, and you can, if you want to do something different, that's of course, I'm more than happy for you to make your own variation. And then this time I'm going to fold a little bit up and then fold it over again, so that instead of a triangle, we've got a strip at the tip of this wing. And there's all kinds of things that you can do with these things. So in the spirit of the Lafosse butterfly, which has many variations, and he in fact he names the variations of his butterflies after his friends. So for example, there's an Alice Gray butterfly. Alice Gray was one of the founders of the Origami Center of America. And there's a Anne Lavin butterfly, and there's a Greg Modari butterfly, etc., etc. And you can find all of those in Michael Lafosse's book. Incidentally, Michael Lafosse is teaching this afternoon. If you want to meet the man, if you don't know him, and he's really a wonderful teacher. He's got if you're an origami Zoom teacher, which seems to be becoming an increasingly popular activity these days, he is an example to us all. He is really great. He teaches everything so clearly. So go to Michael Lafosse's class this afternoon. Okay, so now I'm going to proceed as before. I'm folding in half, and I'm going to leave the wing up like this. How are we doing for time? I've got about...
Got like 15 minutes before.
Okay, I've got
the
time
end,
for just,
so yeah.
I've got time for just to show you just one other variation. Just finish this one off in these corners. Open it up. And we've got something which looks a bit more like a meadow brown. If you look back at the picture, and it's pretty much more life size. I'm sorry, zoom out again. It's not a photographic representation, this, but it gives you, it has some similarities. What I haven't really been able to do is get these sort of central wing spots. There's another very pretty little butterfly which are common, which is called a gatekeeper, which looks quite similar to this, and it's got a whiter or a lighter colour pattern on the left and right here. So it's fun to look at these things and see if you can represent it. So let's try one other variation before we finish off. So I'm going to proceed exactly as before, in half. And I think it would be great, wouldn't it, if when you've finished, you can somehow show us all the variations that you managed to make, not necessarily following my suggestions. Turn it round so we can see the pinch marks. This time I'm going to go in half again. I'm not going to do the underfolding that I did in the previous. One other thing that you can experiment, I'm not going to do it on this, but you don't actually have to do a 60-30 degree division. You can go anywhere with this. This is another suggestion. I'm actually going to go to 60 degrees here, but you can try folding less than 60 degrees. It means that you have to adjust the folding principle a little bit, but for this variation, I'm going to go exactly to the pinch mark to make a 60-30 degree division. What's the, see, look, doing it again, look, it's here. So stupid. Getting real complex about it. Okay, now we go back to this business. And a squash. So this is another variation that I found, which is to turn over to this side so that you can see these small white triangles, and this time lift up this edge here to expose more white paper, lift it up horizontally so that this crease line here is lying along the central axis. And that changes the shape of the wing of the butterfly a little bit. Again, you can proceed exactly as before to make the wings and the body, to separate the wings from the body. Now here we're going away from this sort of curving front wing, because you can see that the shape of the wing has changed a little bit. But now you can put some colour changes on here, on this tip. So you could fold that down there like that. So this is another variation. Don't know whether that represents any living butterfly, but this is going back to the, following back in the origami tradition of butterflies, where the wings of the butterfly rake forward like these classic ones of Yoshizawa and Michael Lafosse. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think that probably I conclude the case for the defence, and I'd invite your questions. So thank you very, very much for paying attention and for allowing me to show the lamb butterfly, the Lafosse Alexander Meadow Brown. I'll just show you these odd variations that I made before, just to so you can see. But do experiment with not necessarily choosing a 30-60 degree division. See how you get on. What the effect of that is that the proportions of the front and rear wings changes a little bit, and you get different butterflies of different shapes. So thank you very much. Any questions, please?